Hello, this is your weekly overview video for Term 2, Week 3 of Ms Ahmed's chemistry class. This week we're continuing our discussion about bonding, so we're still working on Standard 2.1, looking at how to predict the types of bonding likely to occur between elements. And our module for this week is 2.1. So let's take a look at what you guys are expected to do this week in chemistry. For today and tomorrow, November 9th and 10th, we're going to click on this lesson right here. It says, how can we predict bond type? For this lesson, you're going to click on this link that will take you to another video. So if you click on this link and you scroll down, you'll see that there's a video here on this page that you guys are going to be watching. But before you start the video, make sure that you download this Google Doc to copy your notes so you can have this in a separate tab. You can fill in the blank for these notes that talk about different types of bond, ionic, covalent, and metallic bonds. So that is what you're expected to do today. Now, once you've finished the video notes, there is an assignment that you guys will be completing, a Google Doc assignment. So if you make a copy of this, you'll see that we can use this information to predict which type of bond will form based on if we have metals or non-metals. So the first one is done for you. Nitrogen is right up here in this corner. It's a non-metal. Oxygen is right up here in this corner. We look at the periodic table, it's a non-metal. And the pattern when we have a non-metal and a non-metal, that is a covalent bond. So between a metal and a non-metal would be an ionic bond. A non-metal and a non-metal would be a covalent bond. So that's why we put covalent type here. Okay. And then at the bottom, you guys are going to make these predictions based on electronegativity difference. So in the video, it explains what electronegativity is and electronegativity difference. But if we take these values in the periodic table and subtract them, then you can calculate whether or not the bond is going to be ionic, polar covalent, or non-polar covalent. So right here, if we look at this first example of sodium and chlorine, sodium has an electronegativity of 0.9. Chlorine has an electronegativity of 3.0. Here's chlorine right here, 3.0. So if I take 3.0, the bigger number, subtract 0.9, my electronegativity difference is 2.1. Well, that is higher than 1.8, so that's going to represent an ionic bond. Here's an example between carbon and oxygen where the electronegativity difference is 1.0. That would be classified as a polar covalent bond because it falls between 0.4 and 1.8. And our final example here between carbon and hydrogen is going to be a non-polar covalent bond because this is an electronegativity difference of 0.4. So 0.4 and below is a non-polar covalent bond. So your task here is to look up the electronegativity values of sulfur and hydrogen, put the more electronegative element in this column. So for example, sulfur has an electronegativity difference here of 2.5. So I'm going to put 2.5 in this column. Hydrogen has an electronegativity difference of electronegativity of 2.1. So I'm going to put 2.1 in that column for hydrogen. 2.5 minus 2.1 gives me a difference of 0.4. And I'm going to classify this bond type as a non-polar covalent bond because it falls within this range of 0.4 or less. 0.4 is our difference, so that's what I'm going to classify it as. Okay, so your task then on this assignment is to classify it two ways, looking at the types of atoms that are bonded together, metals and nonmetals, or two nonmetals or two metals, and then classifying it based on that pattern, and classifying bond types based on electronegativity difference. Okay, and again, the video that you watch will explain more about what this means. Once you have finished that worksheet, you're going to upload this worksheet to Canvas. All right, so let's look at our second assignment for this week. Our second assignment for this week is to determine the types of bonds based on their properties. So if we click on this lesson, you'll see that there's a Nearpod embedded. Your task is to complete the Nearpod lesson, not skipping any slides, and then writing a 5-sentence summary about what you learned. You can either write it on your copy by making your copy to the Google Drive, or you can write it on a separate piece of paper. So our second assignment is a Nearpod presentation. The 2 assessments that'll be due by Friday, November 13th are all the videos and activities from these lessons and an assignment called an ionic and covalent lab. So if you click on the Google copy of this, this is where you'll find the lab sheet. You'll use this embedded video to record the properties of different substances that are tested in the video, and then you're going to answer the questions on your lab sheet. If you need help with the properties of ionic and covalent compounds, you can refer back to your textbook, or you can refer back to the Nearpod lesson that you should have completed. When you are finished, you're going to be uploading your finished copy of the lab sheet and submitting that through Canvas. I'm looking forward to seeing my in-person students again on Wednesday. Remember, Wednesday, November 11th is when in-person instruction is going to continue. For those of you that are distance learners, as always, if you have questions, please reach out to me. Send me an email or arrange a time for a Google Meet, and I will help you with your questions. Have a great week.